In this video we're going to discuss briefly the difference between a public and a private IP address. Now this is quite a basic network question, but it can cause confusion for people online who are not used to all the networking terminology. So first of all, we'll just start. Definition of an IP address. You probably all heard IP address, IP protocol. Basically, IP stands for Internet Protocol Address. And it's a unique identifier for all network devices, and it enables communication between those devices. It basically lets your phone talk to a website, your smart TV talk to a streaming site, and so on. And there are two types of these IP addresses very broadly. There's a public one. Now, this one is visible to everybody on the internet, and you can't access the internet without a public IP address. And there's also private IP addresses. Those ones might be used in local networks. So you might have IP addresses assigned in your company or your place of work or your school or even your home. Your home router will be allowed to assign private IP addresses to all the little devices in your house. So, what are the characteristics of public and private IP addresses? They kind of look exactly the same, but they're not. Public IP addresses are usually assigned by ISPs. These are internet service providers. So if you sign up for an internet account with your cable provider, your ISP, they'll allocate you one of these private IP addresses when you connect to the internet. Now, in the old days, that used to be through a modem, and you'd hear the clicks and whizzes and bangs as it connected. Now, we've mostly got broadband or cable, so our IP address doesn't really get assigned routinely. It's assigned all the time, if you like. But this doesn't change. They're globally unique. You are the only one with that IP address from your ISP, which is why it can be used to track and monitor you, really, because you're the only one with that IP address. This is why you see crime movies and detectives. They can trace an IP address to a public IP address to your house. It also makes it accessible worldwide. This has to be unique. Otherwise, the data would get lost all over the place. So you'd send for a website and it gets sent to another IP address. It's got to be unique on the internet. Without a public IP address, you can't communicate on the internet. Private IP address is much easier. It can be assigned from your Wi-Fi router. All your devices have probably got private IP addresses in your home network. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at 3 laptops. They've all got a private IP address each. In my case, 192.168.0.3, 5, and 7, I think. And there'll be millions of people all over the world using those exact same IP addresses, but they're not accessible on the internet. They can be reused as much as you like. They can't access the internet directly. What they do is they can talk to the device, the router usually, or the modem that is online. So here's some of the common ranges. There's the range I usually use, 192.168. If you see any of these numbers, it's probably a private IP address. So VPNs, you've heard of VPNs, virtual private networks, and they're used to hide your public IP address. As I mentioned, your public IP address is unique and can usually be tied to you. I mean, if you're sitting in a library, all it can be done is tell that the communication comes from the library, and then you have to look directly at how that internet access is resourced, so whether they can track it to an individual depends on the internal network there. But your home network, it can go straight to your door unless you use something like a VPN. So VPN is basically an intermediary that sits between your device and the rest of the internet, and it acts like a mailing box or a mailing address or an intermediary that's often called a proxy server as well. All your internet traffic is encrypted as well, so it keeps it from outside interference. All your data travels through this tunnel, if you like, and nobody else can access it. And it goes to the VPN server, which uses its own IP address to access all the web resources. So your device goes to a VPN server, which goes and sends your email or fetches your web page or anything like that. And it's important to remember, when you use a VPN service, the websites don't see you, don't see your IP address, don't see your location, only the VPN. Let's see it quickly, illustrated very, very simply here. Here's you, your IP address, and your data flows down this little tunnel that is controlled by a VPN server. Now, this VPN server can be anywhere in the world. I'll show you briefly how I use mine. It goes over to the internet and then sends the data back to you. So let's just see the VPN service in use. Here's mine. I use NordVPN. If you want to try NordVPN, it's well recommended. There's a discount link in the description below. But there are loads of them. As you can see now, I am connected to a server in Bermuda. There we go. And that means that any website I visit thinks I am in Bermuda. They can't see my location. It's why VPNs are very, very popular for bypassing blocks. Geo-blocks, for instance, if you want to try and access the BBC online, which is a great free website, you can only do that if you've got a British IP address, which you can get in two ways. You can either be in Britain, or you can use a British VPN server. So if I connected to the UK, I could then use the BBC, and so on. And the same goes for American websites, Australian websites. As you can see, NordVPN has servers all over the world, so you can connect to whichever country you like. But it's more about privacy. It's more about hiding your location and protecting your data online. And that's what there really is to know. The public IP address, public IP address you must have if you want to use the internet. But it is uniquely identifiable, so it can be traced back to you unless you use a VPN to hide it. So public IP, it's got to be things like are accessible for everywhere in the world. Web servers, email servers, anything that's got to be in the internet needs a public IP address. If you use a VPN server, you're hiding some of that. You're keeping your location private. Private IP uses are people on home networks to get their devices at home to speak to each other. So your laptop can speak to your printer through private IP addresses. It doesn't need a public one. The only time you need a public one is if you need to go and get a driver, or the printer needs to go online or something like that. Most corporate networks will all have private IP addresses. Public IP addresses are expensive. You have to buy them because they're unique. You have to rent them. But corporate networks, if they're isolated from the internet, can use private address ranges. All internal IT systems will use private IP addresses and then connect through something that has a public IP address to allow access to the internet. Okay, I'm going to stop there before I confuse myself, but hopefully that's explained it slightly for if you're looking for what's the difference between a public and a private IP address. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.